If any member knows of a conflict of interest or appearance of a conflict, please state so at this time. And the record shows there are none. And we welcome J.D. Solomon,
your newest member.
Commissioner Solomon, who is filling the seat of now Chair Myberg. They are trading places, at least for the current period, and we welcome him. And we're letting Ms. Culpepper sit at the desk with us today. She's got a knee issue, and I hope this will make it easier for you because you are the agenda item for today. So thank you. Let me also say that we will probably in the future be putting a few additional items on the agenda that reflect the next day EMC meeting, just so everyone knows what's on for the next day. Are there any revisions to today's agenda that committee members wish to identify? Okay, since there are none, then we move to the review of the meeting minutes. And we have just handed out to us by Adrian a new version of the meeting minutes that were posted for the committee members. They're strictly light editorial changes, but she wanted you to be aware of these. Is that correct, Adrian? Adrian must have stepped out for a moment. So, are there any comments or questions about the January meeting minutes? And if not, I'll entertain a motion. Motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilsey. Any second? Then if there are, thank you. If no objections, then the minutes will be approved as handed out today. And they will be reposted onto today's agenda on the website. So the main business of today then will be updates on a variety of items, and I will turn it over to Director Culpepper.
All right, thank you. Thank you for letting us join you today. We have a variety of topic areas, trying to keep the conversations going. First, the draft general permits for the animal feeding operations. We had public meetings held in Kenansville February 19th and then February 26th in Statesville. Had approximately 300 attendees at the first meeting with 50 individual oral comments in Kenansville, and then in Statesville there were about 60 attendees and 24 oral comments. Christine Lawson is here today to try to help resolve questions or any issues that you may have. She's working with about 6,000 written comments. Now a lot of them are form letters, so there's some similar comments. The main areas that we're seeing in discussion in the draft permit, shortening the permit length to allow environmental justice tools to be incorporated more quickly into the general permit, phosphorus loss assessment if the soil P index is above a certain value, groundwater monitoring within the 100-year floodplain, and requiring submittal of annual reports. Those are the major comment areas. The current general permits are expire September 30th. The applications for renewals were mailed out in March and need to be submitted by April 3rd. Any questions on the general permits for the animal operations? Yes.
My question is, do you anticipate that the permit will be available before the applications are due on April 3rd?
We are not certain that that's going to be able to happen.
Lindy, can you say a little more about the significance of what you just said?
Christine, I don't know if you want to, Christine has had a lot of discussions that are happening with the farmers, as well, so they have a better underpinning and understand it. They have the draft permits with red line versions of the changes. We've done a lot of outreach so they know what to anticipate. But Christine, I don't.
Good afternoon. My name is Christine Lawson. I'm the Animal Feeding Operations Program Manager within the Division of Water Resources. And we have received what, at least in my estimation, is a record number of comments. and compared to what we've dealt with before. I thought we had a lot of comments when we did the rules a year or so ago, but this just takes that over. Just the sheer management of those number of comments, even though so many of them fall into several categories of form letters or form emails, we're trying to make sure that all of those comments are received and the issues are understood and addressed. So to have a finalized permit before April 3rd would be an aggressive task, and we're moving towards that, but we can't guarantee that it will be done by then. It's not the first time that we've had a general permit renewal process move forward before a finalized permit. It happened with the NPDS permit, I want to say in 2012. But we anticipate if it's not by April 3rd, it'll be shortly thereafter. And if during that renewal process, because we'll receive those applications and we'll go through the process of administratively doing the renewals, entering in the information, making sure we have all the required information. And then we will issue the new certificates of coverage with the new permits mid to late September, so they'll have them before October 1st, which is when it would go into effect. So between April 3rd and October 1st, should a permittee that has applied for renewal wish to remove themselves from renewal of the general permit, go to individual permit, they can do that. They can make that request.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Ms. Lawson? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving forward with rural readoption status, have several fronts going. Water quality permitting, as you know, is on your agenda for tomorrow as item 19-08. Jeff Popart is here as well for overseeing the permitting. Trying to reviews, we have Chris Ventalora, Connie Brower, Adrian, Betsy, and Julie Ventalora is here as well. They've been working on that aspect. The surface water trying to review and the hearing officer's report is being drafted. We've had very few comments with respect to proposals to modify the current text to address rural readoption and the U.S. EPA disapprovals. There were numerous comments, though, received that offer suggestions for future proposal and actions that the public and regulated parties want the EMC to act upon that are just outside the scope of this readoption. And we're planning to return.
Excuse me, Linda, which readoption is this?
This China reviews.
Okay,
Water quality standards and classification.
that we'll be talking about tomorrow. That Pam will be talking about tomorrow, or the
Yes.
next round? Okay. This is Pam's item tomorrow, right?
It's not
No.
item for action.
It's not, Pam is focused on the 303D, but this is the underpinning of the China reviews.
Okay. But this is just to date,
That's
it's not
right.
for changes, correct? What's the purpose of this action?
Okay. This
I just don't have anything to look at. I'm just trying to, I'm following
Right.
what you're saying, and there's a lot of,
Right. This is the water quality standards and classifications, the proposed rule for readoption, and we're calling it the triennial review and our tracking.
This was the action that the previous chair assigned me to be the hearing officer for.
okay.
And so, the hearing dates on this were the ones back in July of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So we're anticipating bringing back the package for you at the July meeting.
In the July meeting.
Which means we'll go to committee in May.
It doesn't have to go
Then it'll
to,
go
it's,
to committee.
goes to the full commission, yeah.
We can't get it back in May? Or we got too many comments, or what's going on with that?
There were lots of comments, but not all related to the rule as it was actually before us. A lot of the comments had to do with recommendations for future actions when you do these kind of reviews.
Thank you.
Okay.
My pleasure.
So this is the ones you heard in last July, July 2018?
That's correct.
Okay.
Also in queue, the update for the new TARPAM draft rules. As you know, the public comment period for the rule set started February 15th, and it goes through April 16th. The public hearings are March 26th at the Lenore Community College and March 28th at the Clayton Town Hall. We're planning for that package as well and to come back before the commission in July.
Mr. Chairman, can I intercede again?
Yes,
When I go back to those last July, we've only got a year from the time of the hearing.
Correct.
Let's look it up. October, we have to have it adopted by October 30th, 2018.
Microphone, please.
No, there's there's the RRC deadline, and then there's also the big deadline is a year from the public hearing date or the advertisement date, which was, if this was in July and this doesn't come back till July, that means the EMC has to approve it in July.
Is it that, or is it the end of the comment period? The comment period on that, the preceding one.
Oh, there we go. There's our rules coordinator.
Ms. Everett.
There is a one-year timeline on something here with this,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, you are correct, and that is 12 months, the rules need to be adopted by this commission from the last day of the comment period, which was July 30th.
31st of
31st, or whatever, yeah. So if they come before you in early July,
And there's no snags, we're
and there's no
fine.
snags, then you're fine.
Wow. Russian roulette. Okay, very good. All right. I just wanted to catch that. I just wanted to.
And I had just pulled out my sheet to,
Yeah, there's the RRC deadline,
Have a
which I
sheet.
worried less about than that 1 year, because that's in the APA, as she would point out. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Everett.
Lab certification rules, we are planning to bring those back for you at the May commission meeting. And the revised well construction standards and the associated 2L change, that we're also planning for your May commission meeting as well.
see those tomorrow.
Also, the water reuse registration allocation rule set and the central coastal plain capacity use area rule sets, those were approved for the rules review categories back in November of 2018. The RRC has not issued a readoption date as I know it. I'll look at Jennifer, but I don't believe there's been a readoption timeline for those yet. But just give you the update on those rule sets. The groundwater interim maximum allowable concentrations, the Imacs. Bridget Flaherty, Connie Brower, Chris Ventilora, and then Julie Ventilora for the fiscal note. The fiscal note's in progress with OSBM reviewing, hopefully to have their plan or their final review by early April. If OSBM approves it then we're going to be able to bring the package to you for the September Groundwater Committee meeting. The status of current IMAX, we have 40 that will be recommended currently for 2L standards. 11 will remain as IMAX, and 3 will be recommended to be withdrawn. And we have new IMAX that have been requested under development. There's 4 draft IMAX in review right now by the Division of Waste Management and Department of Health and Human Services in accordance with our memorandum of agreement. Those 4 chemicals, HMX, which is octogen, if I get that correct, and RDX, both of those are types of materials that are explosives. M-nitrotoluene and nitrobenzene. There's also one newly requested IMAC that's being worked on for tetrahydrofuran. Also, we have some classification petitions that are before us. The petition to add the unique wetlands classification to the sandy bottom wetlands in the French Broad River Basin. That's on your agenda item for tomorrow as item 19-07. We also have received a petition for the reclassification of the Lower Cape Fear supplemental classification. We've received that, and we're working with Chairman Rubin and Chairman Myberg, anticipating that could come before you at the May Water Quality Committee meeting. Okay. I was privileged to be able to hear online some of the conversation regarding the Florence update that the Division of Waste Management provided. And our report on Hurricane Florence and all of our sampling and analysis efforts is ready to be submitted to me by the end of March, so that we'll have that in preparation for May. If you liked the format that DWM did for the Groundwater Waste Management Committee, we'll be glad to follow that format if that's helpful. Okay. There was another agenda item I originally put on for the Comores consent agreement, but given that agenda item has been added for your committee or your commission meeting tomorrow, Asher Spiller and Francisco Benzoni are going to be presenting tomorrow on behalf of the agency So I think you're going to have a full conversation there. Anything else? That concludes what I had prepared, but I'm glad to entertain if there's other questions.
You said that the majority of your comments were reflected in your summary tomorrow that you're presenting. Is that posted online now? I haven't noticed.
I don't believe that Lois has posted any of the director's comments,
Okay.
but we will be certain to get that for you.
If they can capture your outlook for the calendar for these various items, I think it would be useful to help us track and plan. That would be most helpful.
And Jennifer Everett out there in the audience is smiling about this because we actually had this discussion, and as well as Commissioner Wilsey, because we had this discussion there too. And we have in fact been working on trying to get something that we could use just as a signal on important items coming up for the commission as a whole, which I don't know if we've distributed that as fully as we might, but it's useful to me and probably could stand some refining, because I think there are some things that came up today that either aren't on there or I couldn't recognize them. But it is, the reason I really wanted to have this committee meeting today and asked Commissioner Rubin to hold one, even though there wasn't a voting item on there, was precisely this, that there are a number of very important actions that are coming up in the May-July timeframe, and I just simply wanted the members of the committee to be aware that this is going, the next few months in the water side are going to be very busy ones, and there are a number of rules and actions that are pretty high profile, is it fair to say? And so this is a chance to sort of start to get your mind around that before the wave actually hits the shore. So.
And I remind the committee, all committee chairs, that the spreadsheet, the tracking spreadsheet, is certainly a way to show what's coming up on the next several agendas, so we need to continue to use that. The sheet that we came up with really was just to track the rules, particularly the ones that are still in progress and that could be getting close to a deadline.
Okay, thank you.
And I agree. I will bring it back to the other directors as well, that we need to make sure that we use that spreadsheet to be able to give you that forecast on what's coming up, especially as you're being asked to be hearing officers as well.
It's just helpful to keep track of things, certainly for me.
Any questions for Director Culpepper?
No, I continue, I reiterate what Chairman Myberg said, is there's a lot of water stuff, and it was surprising to me there wasn't enough on this agenda, but the buffer rules we'll be talking about tomorrow are huge, and we've got them to the hearing officer stage. The nutrients that are coming up for public hearings at the end of this month are huge. The triennial review, the 303D list, I mean, there's a lot of water stuff that's happening in the state, as we know. It's just, it amazed me we weren't able to have a full agenda for this meeting. It baffled me, actually, with all that's going on. So I guess there is a wave coming, so to speak.
We look forward to your remarks about the buffer rule hearing officer recommendations.
Yeah, and
tomorrow.
I've assumed, I didn't hear much from anybody yet, so I assume y'all have read them and studied them, but there's a lot of content in there.
It's
And
a
it was
very-
very controversial in the day, so.
It's a very large package. My first reaction was, could not these have been broken into smaller packages?
They were.
But there are some similarity across them for the purposes of public hearing. I understand that.
Yeah. These were 4 sets to begin with, and y'all saw the watershed, the water supply watershed previously, right? That's the one we did last time. This is actually the buffers and the water quality, which were put together, and then the next one is nutrient. So at one time, you see this package, it's one of now 3, but there's 4 components, so it's, all 4 are big.
Yes,
So-
they are, yeah. Any other business before the committee today?
So with that, just members of the committee, you've been warned.
Yes. I know we have a presentation tomorrow on 303D, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Any closing remarks from any of the committee members?
I had mentioned to Director Culpepper that at the National Legislative Conference for Airports Associations last week, they talked about AFFF. Of course, AFFF, aqueous foaming foam. It's what we fight fires with on the airfield side. has PFOA in it. So the FAA sent out a regulatory guidance letter, a wriggle in our world, that said that you must continue to use that type of AFFF until they find a suitable substitute. They have given some guidance on how we train with it, use it sparingly, and they've given, trying to prevent it from going into any type of water, body of water, or runoff into water. They've also given an exemption for this annual truck discharge, pump discharge requirement if you would like to do that. There is a risk of not doing that, but some airports may take it. We'll go ahead and do our discharge. But they are comparing it to some European products to try and find a substitute quickly. But what they've found so far is everything that they've used as a substitute takes 3 times as much to be effective. So because of that, the FAA is talking to the EPA, but we will continue to use AFFF in the airfield firefighting world until we're told otherwise. We have to. It's regulatory.
And I
It's
think
a large issue for defense as well.
for everybody. No, I was just going to say, that would be an interesting presentation to have, because in all the PFAS and PFOA, all the stuff that EPA brought out in their guidance document, I think the thing that I've heard is it's not much of a guidance document at all. It's more of an idea, a vision statement, and I don't think we've heard from the department on how they see it and how helpful it's going to be in these interim guidelines and stuff, because I think there was a lot of hope that EPA would take a stronger position, but they basically said we're going to study it for a few more years, and this is one of those consequences. So I think that would be, could have been this meeting, but it could be the next meeting. It'd be an interesting thing to talk about that. I know in the water world, it's everywhere now. People are talking about how weak that was, so.
That's a really good suggestion. I very much agree with that. And it's a real issue. I mean, that's why Greensboro has been putting in a powdered activated carbon system. They're going to build a granulated activated carbon system because of downstream contamination of their water supply from runoff from AFFF at Piedmont Triangle International Airport.
Yeah.
So this is a real thing. This is not just a hypothetical. And there are water supplies all around the country, around Air Force bases and some airports, where this contamination's become a significant issue.
And I would be remiss, too, if I didn't mention that Commissioner Rubin would be probably talking about algal blooms, too, right now. Because when we come back in May, we're going to be heading into peak season. And so I know that's a passion, and that's one of those topics that probably doesn't need to fall off our list either, of things to keep monitoring. I think he would want to see that at some point, so.
Mr. King, did you want to make?
Just for information purpose for the committee, is that yesterday the North Carolina Coastal Federation had its summit, Oyster Summit, here in Raleigh. It was quite impressive, good attendance, probably around 150 people maybe, with a good reception last night with several General Assembly members. They had one 2 years ago, and this was quite interesting, showing maps of the inland waters, and not just the importance of oysters as aquaculture, but also for quality of clean water, and the importance of oysters, and how it's moving forward in our state, and how important it is for quality of water, clean water. And it was interesting, too, that as a committee, we may be interested in some of their maps that disclose how the closures are taking place in North Carolina compared to what they were 8 years ago, 6 years, 3 years ago, and how those closures are affecting the industry and the growth pattern of oysters in our state. It might be something that the committee may want to entertain at a future date, but that was interesting yesterday, and just thought I'd bring that up for information. Thank you.
Commissioner Keene, just a follow-up question. Did the maps tend to show that the closures were increasing or decreasing or moving around, or?
Increasing.
Closures are increasing.
Increasing from west to east or from north to south, depending on which way the feeder system goes, but definitely from an inward to outward moving a flow out to the bigger waters that are showing those increase. And it went over the leasing pieces and how important it was to see the locations of the leases.
Right.
And again, looking at forward growth patterns and where to locate the industry as it's moving forward to grow in North Carolina, where those reefs are, building the reefs, locating them, depending on the location was important for those wishing to get into the business and those who are in the business with the leasing pieces that they have now. Interesting.
Thank you, Commissioner Keene. It also brings to mind that the North Carolina Water Resources Research Institute's annual meeting is the 21st and 22nd in Raleigh at McKimmon Center. There are always great presentation sessions on that, so encourage folks interested in the topic to attend. And if there is no other business before the commission, any other closing remarks? Then this committee stands adjourned. Thank you.